going to share as well. Hello, Jess Claire here, joining you live with REECE Anderson, who I will introduce you to in a second. I'll just introduce myself. Tonight we're going to be talking about, on the Raw Explore, we're going to be talking about labels and the impact on mental health, something that's very, very, very close to my own heart. I'm just going to find myself here and share it. For those of you that are jumping on, please leave me a message. Please tell me that you're online. I'm just up on my own page, so I can actually see your comments. I wish it was easier than it currently is, but it's not. But yeah, leave your comments. If you are tuning in from Evolve and Entertain Global TV, make sure you click in. If you don't click in, I won't see comments, so I can actually see you from the actual live right now. Hello, Emily, Jennifer, Haley. How you doing? Leave me some comments. Geez, I love interacting. Hey, Barb. And we're going to be talking about something very, very close to my heart, which is labels. I freaking love this topic, like love it. I couldn't love on this topic anymore, actually. Labels is one of those things that so many people I speak to talk about. So I'm just going to go gallery view so we can see your beautiful face. Hello, Kelsey. Hey, Marta. Yeah, hello, Sarah. As you tune in, make sure you leave me a message. Hey, Chantel. I will pause my music for you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. This is far more interesting than Alanis Morissette, tell you. Hayden, Jennifer. That's who I've been listening to lately. That would be funny if it was you. So REECE, let me introduce you. REECE is, I've come across REECE just recently. He became a great partner of mine in Authentic Professionals. More recently, I found out he's very into the mental health area. He's a mental health worker. He does work with young people and mentoring. And we got into this conversation about labels. And I asked him, I made that suggestion to him. I said, you know, if you could say there was one problem that we could solve in the world, what would it be? And he mentioned labels and the impact it's been on mental health from his experience. So I just wanted to talk about that today. And I was like, this is great. I mean, I'm one of those lesbians. And so labels is one of those things that in my community, lesbians, LGBTIQ community, people hate labels. There's labels. Oh yeah, that's, I mean, we could get into it for ages. You know, last night I met someone who was really upset because everyone kept treating her a particular way because she had been diagnosed with bipolar. And it was like the label itself became worse than the actual condition for her. Anyway, I think this is perfect. But before I go any further, why don't you introduce yourself, anything you want to say? But thank you so much for being on here, REECE. You're an absolute legend in my eyes, and I'm glad that I can share you with my community. So what would you like to say? Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Firstly, thanks, Jess. Really appreciate it, mate. Like, it was a bit touch and go. They didn't hear from you all day, so I wasn't sure if we were doing it. But then she's like, boom, let's go. So I was like, right, good. So, yeah, I guess for me, like, yeah, like, this is something I'm pretty passionate about. And for people that do know me, know it's a pretty big deal for me. But, you know, I guess having my own experience for over 15 years, and only in the past 5 or 6 years that I've actually managed to come through that. So I guess a third of my life, I struggle with my own challenges. And now I get to give back to other people. And I think when we think about love and kindness, so I get to do that through my work, both my day job and both outside of my work. And I don't know, it's just, I don't know, I could just talk about it for bloody days, to be honest. We could just go around when it comes to mental health. And, you know, and for me, who's been through, I guess a good example is if this is 5 years ago and I was talking to you, I'd probably have my arms and freaking hair, my face would be moving around because I used to have actually really, really severe tics.
Oh
to
yeah.
the point, yep, really, really severe, to the point where I don't know, I struggled to talk. And when we speak about labels, I was heavily judged, like to my face, and many, many times. And, but, you know, and I've, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much you want me to tell. I could speak all day about
Talk
whatever,
like
but
you. Well, tell me about this. So, what was the label that you got when you had a tick? Like, what was the label?
well, I got labels. So I had, I guess, severe anxiety, depression, my tics. So since I was like 20 years old, it all
Yeah.
came from having like one panic attack, and then I was pretty much given a pill the next day, and then from there my body just started doing some weird shit, like these movements. It was to the point where sometimes I was grabbing my forehead to the point of bleeding, grabbing my ribs to the point of bleeding, because it was like it became like a bit of an OCD security thing. You know, on public transport, when you're waving your arms around like this and like your head like this, like literally full on movements like that. Yeah, I was labeled fucking all sorts of shit. Like I was or even just people staring at you is like feeling like you're labeled, because it's like you're a weirdo.
Yeah.
What the hell is wrong with you? And even my mum, like, she didn't label me, but she'd just get frustrated. She'd be like, "Reece, just stop," and I knew it was. Back then, I was just like, "Oh my god, they're made me feel worse." But I look back,
Yeah.
it was always coming from a place of love when it's people close to you. But the general public just was disgusting.
Yeah. And so you were like moving these movements that you had.
Yeah.
What was actually going on for you in the moment that was happening for you?
Oh, just stressed because I didn't really know
Yeah.
what was wrong. Didn't know what was wrong with me. No one could tell me what was wrong with me. And I guess I was naturally quite a big worrier growing up. So this just, you know, I probably made it worse, because I was just going, what? And it was scary, really, really scary. Like, you know, I'd get quite bad driving, and I'd people come along the motorway, especially when I moved to Australia, down the highway, and young people would pull up next to me and start mimicking me. I remember coming out of a Domino's pizza shop, and I was with a mate one night in West End, and I came out and someone just stood there in front of me and did what I was doing and just laughed at me. Like, it was pretty full on.
And it was at that point kind of a bit uncontrollable for you, wasn't it? It was like it literally was just like a reflex.
Yeah, like it would just get to a point where it was like it would just happen, and then it would be like I'd be like gasping as well. I'd always do quite a dry cough, which probably isn't a good thing to say now because of what's going on, but sometimes, but that was just a natural thing for me, and sometimes it still is. And don't get me wrong, I still have subtle movements, but I'm very aware of what's going on, that I have a toolbox, I guess, I can refer to. So, but yeah, I guess with the anxiety, depression, and to be fair, we'll throw in the, I'm just going to put it out there too, was that when I was 25, it got to the point where I just decided to try and take my life. Like, that's how bad it got, because I was just like, fuck this. Like, I was the most sportiest person, and for those first 5 years of my 20s, I just put all my effort into work, so I burnt myself out, didn't do my sport, because my tics actually stopped me from doing all that stuff. Well, yeah. So yeah, I just had enough, and I did try to take my life, and then I tried to run away and move to Australia when I was 27, which just made things even 10 times worse. So, yeah. So when we think of labels, I was labeled not just from other people, but I guess I labeled myself too. I guess that's the big thing too. We label ourselves as well. You know what I mean? So I was just like, this is me for the rest of my life. I just thought this was it.
Yeah. And how old were you when you had that first panic attack?
20.
So you were 20. So between 20 and 25, you kind of went through all these experiences. People did this stuff to you. You were noticing your own body kind of involuntary movements. And effectively, by that stage, you're like, I just can't deal with this anymore.
No, and then you chuck in things like I think we lost grandparents, relationship problems,
life,
isolation, because I just started withdrawing from people, and I guess we throw in there too, I started drinking quite heavily, because it was especially come into the day, it was like I'd run a whole bloody marathon with all the movements that I just smash drink to try and sleep, because it started affecting my sleep, and I just had enough, mate. It was too much.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you for sharing that. You know, I mean, the whole intention of the Raw Explore is to actually share the stories of what's really happening. And I, just from hearing that, like at 20 years old, when you're supposed to be going out and partying and probably what I call going through like slut stage, you're instead, not me. I mean,
I
would never do that. But I think others, yeah.
Just to stop you there, I guess that was my mindset, was like, well, I'm 20 years old. And then when we got to, 21, 21st is pretty big where I was from in New Zealand. I still did all that, but I was on a lot of medication. So I would have a few drinks. I was fucking hammered. And my friends were like, what is this guy on? I just did some stupid shit. But I was drinking. I was drinking to, guess, feel normal. But it actually just made me look like more of a dick. I get labeled even more because I was trying to hide what was going on. So I still did all those things, but I did it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, okay. So you still went through the normal 20-year-old stuff, but what's actually going on is and it's not like something that you can actually share with people, right? So here you are, you've had this panic attack. You don't share it with people because how do you explain that? You don't even really know what a panic attack is. You just know that you've done something different. And then not only that, you then have these kind of involuntary movements. People are judging you for that. You're getting more and more isolated because the more that you notice your body doing what it's doing, people are like, your mum's like, stop doing this, blah, blah, blah. Like that whole you have to look a particular way thing comes up. And then you notice everywhere you are, society. I mean, it's like I like to come back to, is it really such a mystery that people get depressed? Is it? When these sort of things happen, and then the way that everyone seems around to respond is sort of like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and I think, this is like, what, 20, I'm nearly 40, so it was nearly 20 years ago when this happened. So back then, like fucking year 2000 it would have been, like I didn't even understand. I just was like, oh, okay, no worries. I was very naive. I was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll try and keep living my life, like.
You're 40? Are you almost 40?
Yeah, this year, yeah. Fuck, I look
You're
good, don't
40. Oh, you look so good. And just so everyone knows, the most eligible bachelor around.
Yeah, just don't ask me to go. Just don't ask me to go any more game shows. That's all. Retired.
Yeah,
retired from game
that's
shows.
Right.
Yeah.
You're pretty safe from me too, REECE. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can feed my ego. That's cool. I'm happy with that.
That's right. I can do this.
Yeah.
But
so I think it was just a lot of like, I look back and go, what the fuck? Because it was just, I had no idea what the hell was going. I was so naive. I never really went to research anything that I was probably told. I had to see psychologists and psychiatrists and all this bloody. Mate, I ended up between 23 and 25. I reckon I was at the doctor almost every week because I was just in my head going, nah, there's something more wrong here. I don't know what's going on. And I think I just created so many things in my head that made it worse.
And I think that's what I've noticed from everything I've experienced too. And I just want to point out just a couple of things as well. Hey, Malik and Trish and Sonia, Talita. I think one of the things I've noticed as well, if we really go back to the beginning here, you had a panic attack. And it was like the moment you had that panic attack, which probably was like, what is this? Like, what the hell's happening to me, right? And it was probably something for you to look at. But it's almost like the panic attack itself became such a problem. You started to try and figure out what was wrong with you. Like, what's wrong with me? Something's wrong with me. What's happening?
Well, to give us some context, so I just actually come home from a tennis practice. So just about 3 hours of playing sport. I was home on my own, cooked dinner, went to sit and eat. I couldn't swallow. I just started choking and going, what the hell's going on? Then I was pacing up and down the house. I went and laid on the driveway going, oh, fuck, I think I'm just dying. And my heart was just going, heart out, full on. I rang the ambulance and they said, no, we're not coming out. I think you're just having a panic attack. And I was like, what the hell's a panic attack? I didn't fucking no idea what they're talking about. They said, just take some slow breaths. I'm like, I bloody can't. I fucking can't take any fucking slow breaths. And then I end up, because my parents are away on holiday. So my nan and pop came around and they were like, holy shit, you are pale. What is wrong with you? And they rang the ambulance, and ambulance came. And I was sitting here like I am now. My heart rate was 180 beats per minute. I don't even get that high when I'm running full tit. So that was pretty full on. And then I literally went to the doctor the next day, and he's like, "Oh, you've had a panic attack. Here's some pills." And it was antidepressant. I was like, "Oh, fuck." So I had no idea at the time. So I was put on antidepressants just from having a panic attack. And then that's when I just went, whew.
Yeah, right. And do you still, if you go back to that one panic attack, do you know what actually caused it to this day?
I do. Yeah, I do now. Yep. So there was two things that really stood out. I look back now. I didn't know for about 12 or 13 years, but every time I was around an ambulance, I'd just go absolutely nuts. And the second one was the reason why I stopped doing all my sport and running around was because when I started getting my heart rate up, my heart would tell my mind that I was having a heart attack. And so I went back to when I was 15 or 16 years old at my running club, and I watched two people die of a heart attack in front of me in 2 weeks. And actually literally saw them get resuscitated or not resuscitated, saw their families come and grieve, ambulances turn up. So that were actually the two biggest things that were my triggers.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And it sounds like so simple, right? But it took me a million years to figure that out. So
well, I suppose if you go to the doctor, you're given antidepressants, and then you get set on a series of having to deal with how you now got these involuntary movements, and now people that you're interacting with are making fun of you every day. Your mum's telling you she wants to stop, and this is not a criticism of your mum, right? She's just being human, and she just wants the best for you.
She was coming from a place of
like, of course, it's not. It's like normal behavior, but basically, you get set on that. It's like, how do you even begin to understand why you had a panic attack? Because now you have to deal with all this other shit that's going on. And what is it about that? Like, you're now super passionate about labels, right? What is it about all experience that you're bringing back to labels? Like, what is that?
I don't know. I guess in society and in the work that I do, when you have, whether it's anxiety or depression or bipolar or ADHD, whatever it might be, sometimes that's where the whole focus becomes about that. They actually forget about, actually his name's actually REECE, or her name's Jess, his name's Jim, their name's Michael, who actually is those people. But instead we go too much into they are depressed, they are this, they are that. So then when you hear that all the time, you actually start to think and feel it and think that's all you are. Like, just to add, from 23 until now, I held leadership jobs. I was a leader of a team from 23 all through this. I only took time off work after I tried to take my life for 6 months. All through that, I was leading a team of some sort. So I held good jobs, but I still had all this shit going on. And I guess for me, the people I worked with were pretty good. It was sometimes the public, or like I had customers write complaints saying I was on drugs, for example. One day I accidentally went up the back of this lady's car, and I seriously just touched it because I had a bit of a panic, a bit of a tick thing going on in the car, and I hit the accelerator instead of the brake, and I just tapped her, and she came out and just screamed at me and went, "You fucking druggie." And she started just going absolutely fucking nuts. I was like, "Oh, let's just check the cars." I was like, "Oh, the cars are all good." And she goes, "Give me your name and your number. I'm going to tell the police you are on drugs. You shouldn't be driving." And I was, obviously, because of the stress of it, I had a really big day at work. I was coming home and I was just all over the place. And that's how quick people are to label you, rather than going, actually, "Hey, are you okay?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on for you?" No, it's just straight to like, "Oh, he's a weirdo. He's on drugs. He's this, he's that, he's that." So we're just so quick to point out anything, right? And you'd know yourself.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
And I think this is it's an awesome conversation, REECE, because, just even, I don't know, did I share this before when we got on? Last night, I'm on my way home from a friend's house, and as I'm going home, it's 11 p.m. at night, I'm driving home, and there's this woman on the side of the road, and she's crying. And what I wanted to do was drive past, right? Because the label is that's dangerous. I don't know who is this or what's this. What I wanted to do was just drive past. Instead, I was like, okay, I'm going to go back. I was with my friend Jody, and I'm going to go back. And we turned around and went back, and I was terrified, you know, because what I think is just like that, just like what you said, young girl on her own, crying, she's on drugs, she's on ice, immediately labeled in my mind that this girl's on drugs. And I kind of had to put it aside to take any other action. I kind of just had, no, I don't know that. That's not true. It's like almost like my brain made it up.
Yeah.
I wind the window down. My heart's pounding, right? So I'm like, I have no idea this is about to happen. And I wound the window down and I said, are you okay? And she said, no, I'm not. And I said, do you have anyone? This is all I came to was, do you have anyone that can hold you right now? And she said, no, I don't. I said, why are you so sad? She said, my cousin just committed suicide. Right? So in that moment, I suppose what I wanted to do was, I know, pretty intense. What I wanted to do was like, oh, wow, this is quite intense. So all I said was, do you want me to give you a hug? And she went, yeah. So I got out of the car along with my friend Jody, and we just hugged this woman. And it made such a difference to her. Now, if I had judged her in that moment, because it wasn't an easy situation. It was like, oh my God, this is like intense. If I judged her for that, I may not have actually made that difference. But because of everything that I have experienced myself, like from you, I know that these labels play such a big part in our mind. And they're kind of like, whether I like it or not, it's almost like conditioning. Whether I like it or not, this stuff is just like there. It's like, oh, you're a white privileged male. You just walk around, you're white and privileged, and you've got like the beard, with it's a bit unshaven. That's definitely a sign of white privilege. And you know,
totally.
Totally. And then this girl, she's young and she's on the street crying. That means ice. And she wasn't on drugs. She was just really freaking upset. And yeah, she had probably done something a bit erratic for her usual style by going and standing on the street, but she was upset because someone had committed suicide. And, you know, she just said all this stuff like, what's wrong with society? Everyone's pretending. And I'm like, oh, you are talking to the right woman. I was like, you could not have met a more perfect person right now to talk about, you know, why the world looks like it does. Because I love having these conversations. You know, it is. You know, people don't actually share what's going on for them. And thank you for the opportunity to hear that.
Instead of being here on purpose, you were there on purpose.
I was there on purpose. Yeah.
There you go.
What's true? We had this. It was. Yeah. I mean, I could have. Ultimately, most people would go past because it's threatening to be in those situations. But being able to put aside the label, it's like, well, how could you connect with this human being? And it was scary. Like, I had to check it was going to be okay. Like, if she'd started, like, if any of the stuff I was afraid of started to appear, I probably would have moved on. Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't, because I got to put the label aside, you know. And we'll get into the positive. We'll actually get into when it actually
just
works
and I guess just
too.
and I guess just to follow on from that too, and a lot of people that know me know I'm the most awkward hugger, right? Like, I just don't come across. I don't come across like I'm ready for a hug. But a lot of my times when I was struggling, that's all I wanted. But I didn't know how to even ask for that.
I know, it's interesting.
Because sometimes you just wanted to be comforted, but instead I would just go and drink more alcohol. Simple fact. But sometimes all I wanted was a hug. But even now, and people that know me now will go, "You fuck." You kind of. I stand there. I'm just awkward. I'm really working on it because I actually do like a good hug. I'm just fucking awkward for whatever reason that is. And sometimes that's all that I want, but I can't even articulate that's what I want.
I understand. I actually feel the same. From what I've now picked up from my own work and even myself, when I have what I call these moments of not, you know, people call it all different things. Breakdown, when you're not actually empowered and you actually feel disempowered. Low vibration, call it low vibration, in a negative space, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yep.
what I've picked up about myself is what I really want to say is I just want someone to give me a hug and hold me. And at the same time, I don't want anyone to be near me. It's like this weird kind of contradiction.
Yeah, but then I'm real weird too because I can tell someone needs a hug, and I'm too awkward to give them a hug. So
I know, right?
And then
I'm
I
different.
just go and just say the wrong thing out of my mouth and go, "Oh, I could have just fixed that word by just doing a hug." You know what I mean? So I guess I do it from both sides, but I really come aware of that only in the past really few months, and it's like, oh fuck, right, I'm actually really awkward.
Yeah, I actually myself, I don't know that I would have even expressed it like that. My friend Jodie is far more touchy and affectionate. I'm like, do you need a hug? Even my housemate said when she was sick, she was just about to go in a hospital. I was like, is this what I should be doing? I don't know. You know, touch for me doesn't always come that naturally either. But I also know that it is what people really want. Is that a little child of yours? I can hear a
she
little
was
voice.
looking for her little toy. Yeah.
Okay, very cute.
A little 4-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what we can sum this up is your experience of having a panic attack wasn't just seen for a panic attack. It was like the whole experience from then on in was like this label. It was like people labeling you, your behavior then getting labeled, you continuously having to kind of play catch up with your behavior, even though it was really quite uncontrollable.
Oh yeah, and then you just start to go into like hibernation from your life. I pretty much would just go to work, come home, go to work, come home. Anything in the middle there was like, nah, can't be around anyone unless I was drinking. Because then some of the things would go down, but then I'd act in a fucking horrific way, having too much to drink. So and then wake up the next day, not even knowing anything, just zero responsibility, zero. Because
so
I blame.
You say to people, sorry.
No, you go. You go. You go.
I was just to give some people some access who might know people that are drinking heavily or acting a bit strange. I mean, There is no greater time to be acting a bit strange than now. People are getting that kind of heightened sense of anxiety around money and food and things, and there's some big stuff happening in the world. So if people are acting different, drinking more, doing some different things than usual, what advice would you give people around this and potentially how they might label?
Oh. Yeah, good question.
What did you need? What did you actually really need from people that you never got?
It wasn't about what I didn't get from other people. It was about what I didn't give myself. And that might sound really weird, but for me, it was about I had the people. I had a good family around me. I had support. I had love. I had all that stuff. I didn't see it, but I had all that stuff. For me, it was going, I've got to stop blaming the world and other people around me as to why I am how I am right now. Because that's what it was. It was I took zero responsibility of, it was the doctor's fault that I'm medicated. It was, this person's fault because I drank too much, or this person's fault because I acted how I did. There was zero accountability on myself. And I look back now and people gave me that. And I probably lost a few people along the way because they were like, you're just a dick. Why do I want to be around you? And I probably did that myself. But back in the looking back in the time, I was like, how dare they just leave me? But fuck, people only have a certain amount of tolerance too. You know what I mean? And when you don't actually, it's a tough one, right? Because the people around you will usually say stuff that triggers you more because you're just going, they're probably like your parents or your partner or people that are close to you. We sometimes take what they say to us as nagging, right? But then if someone, Joe Blobs down the road goes and gives the same advice, you might actually listen because they're not actually emotionally invested in what's going on for you. And for me, that was another turning point. Was if I look back now and I wish I had someone like me now able to talk to me back then. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So would you say then that what would have made a difference is someone who got you, who could really understand, having some sort of conversation with you about what was possible in the future?
Yeah,
or sort of see where you are now. And
they could relate to what was going on now without any emotional attachment, because your family and friends do, and it's all from a place of love. But at the time, I was just like, you're all a bunch of twats, right? But that was my own shit. And then I guess now it's like, well, I just needed to have someone who goes, I actually get you. I know where you're at. Because I do that to people now, and they go, you see the walls go down straight away, and they're like, oh, because you don't come with any hidden agenda. You're just actually there from a place of creating space for them to actually discover themselves again. And that's quite powerful. And that's really powerful. And people have done that for me over the past probably 4 or 5 years now, because I've allowed them to. Where before that, I didn't have, maybe I did have them, but I just wasn't open to it because I was still blaming everyone.
I know that last night with this girl, because she shared a whole bunch of stuff, I didn't really do much. I just hugged her and listened. She was like, people call me bipolar. I know I have bipolar, but I wish they'd just leave me alone. And she was like yelling. And all I did was like, oh, so I get that. That would suck that no one's listening to you. And she had 3 kids and she was frustrated. And I noticed just listening to her, like I didn't try to give her advice. I didn't try to change it. I didn't try to kind of fix her, make it any better. I just literally looked at her and listened. And then at one point she said, no one even knows who I really am. And I went, I can see who you really are. And it was weird because she looked at me and went, well, who am I? What do you see? And I literally could see someone who loved so much, who was passionate, who cared and wanted to kind of express herself to the world, but didn't feel like she could be heard. So I just said that. And then she just looked at me and went, no one sees that. And I said, maybe they do. They just don't know how to say it. I don't know. And would something like that make a difference? Like just allowing you to have been
just creating that space for you to be you. No judgment, no emotional attachment. Just shut up and listen to them. Because sometimes you just shut up and listen to people. That's where the gold is. Because they might, like you said last night, you didn't even know this person, right? And you probably made the biggest difference to her than she's probably had in a million years. Just because you listened and then was like, I see this, and she's probably like, wow, a stranger just saw me, and that's how I actually feel. Where her family probably goes, oh, come on, whatever her name is, just pull your head in, just shut up, just move on, just get over it. So when you're hearing that all the time, you are never really going to be able to self-express. And if you can't self-express in your environment, everything else is just going to go down, 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 down. And I was on a lot of medications for a long time. So when I finally came off all mine, I've been off 6 years now, medication free. But for the first couple of years, man, or first year, it was just horrific. All this shit just coming up. Because I just kept it all down. The pills kept it all down. I kept it all down. My environments kept it all down. Because I wasn't open to anything. And B, I didn't have someone just do what you did to that girl last night.
Yeah, and I think I could tell that, and I think a couple of people are saying it as well. There's a question as well for you. REECE, would acceptance of self-help, sorry, I'll say that again. REECE, would acceptance of self help in your situation?
Good question. Looking back, nah, because I didn't know who I was. I went from this literally guy running for New Zealand, top good tennis player, really sporty, to just working and all these movements going on. Yes, now, later down the track, yes, but in that moment of time, it wasn't about that self. It was about, for me, as I said before, it was about I need to take responsibility. Because if you don't take responsibility, then you can't actually you can't do the self stuff. Because if you're
No.
blaming and being a victim, you can't get to that next level, which is probably what that person's asked. For me, it was going, yeah, I was just a victim. That was my biggest thing. I was just a blamer. You're all a bunch of fuckers, and I'm the best person ever. But I was an ass, absolute arsehole.
Yeah. Do you think? I'm just curious about this because I've noticed this in myself. Right, we make being a victim wrong. Like we should never be a victim. And yet, from what I can tell, and from my experience, and from what I experience even in my own friendship circles and family, it's like actually allowing people to sit in the stuff that maybe does make them a victim and not have to try to fix it or protect them or tell them they should be anyway. It's almost like allow people to just be a victim for a bit. Like it's okay. Being a victim is like also being responsible. There's no real difference. Sure, there's a different sort of set of results you get when you're being responsible versus being a victim. But if you don't allow people to be a victim, you don't kind of just love them in it anyway, then they don't kind of get a way to get out of it.
Yeah. And I guess,
Do you think that makes it? Yeah. Like,
yes. But then I was a victim for like 13, 14, 15 years. That's probably a bit too long to be a victim. Just putting it out there. Like that's, you know.
That's I'd call that indulging in victim. That's what I call it. Yeah.
Oh, indulging. That's,
being a victim.
Mate, that's the buffet of victim. That's what that is. You know, like that's freaking. But you know what I mean? I think, yeah, you're right in terms of, I guess, if you, I mean, we're all going to go through our struggles and challenges in life, right? Which is choice. Sometimes you've got to sit in it, because sometimes when you sit in it and you feel it and you acknowledge it and you accept it, usually out the end is the pot of gold, right? Of something.
Yeah.
But I didn't have those skills. No one taught me those skills. I wasn't aware of that. My mum used to buy me all sorts of self-development books since I was a teenager, and I just didn't really take anything on board because I was naive. I knew it all. Doctors are a bunch of wankers. Fuck, I know what I'm doing. I'm good. Like, I wasn't good. I was just sitting in my shit for way too long.
So what did you need? So, you know, I can really relate to this because I was sort of there for a long, long time as well, up until about 5 years ago. What is it that you needed? What did you need? You sort of, you call it being stuck in victim, right? And you kind of get people around you telling you need to be different, but you're like, fucking, I don't know how to be different. How do I be different? I don't know how to get out of here. I just now pissed off at you guys being such judgy assholes.
Yeah. What did I need?
What did you really need?
I just needed someone to get me. In that moment of time, just someone to get me. That was it. That was what I really needed. I just needed someone to understand me. And that's where I come from now with the people I help. I just get it. Like you did with that girl last night, I just got it. I don't have to feel like I need to have the answers or rescue or do anything. I just go, I get it. And sometimes when you say you just get it, then people actually come out with all sorts and you go, right, okay, that's actually the really real issue. Now let's really work on that. But I didn't, maybe I did have it, but I was so stuck in my mentality of the world's shit. I'm shit. I'm not enough. I'm crap. I probably didn't even, if I did see it, I was blinded. It was either blind drunk or just blinded because I didn't want to take responsibility.
Yeah.
But if I look back, that's what I needed.
You didn't know how. You actually didn't know how to take responsibility.
I had zero tools. You know, I remember going to a psychiatrist, psychologist, or whatever it was. And no offense to any psychologists out there, I'm sure there's some good ones, but my one gave me a CD and goes, "Oh, go home, listen to this." And it was just this woo-woo fucking something or other. Mate, I wasn't open to any of that shit. I was like, what are you fucking on about? So I just threw that and I was like, whatever. You know, fuck. You know, you go there and they go, how are you feeling today? Well, it's like, you know how I feel. I feel like shit. How do I not feel like shit anymore? How do I get out of this? And I just never.
Yeah.
And part of it was probably me because I was so just blocked off. But I was probably only hearing what I wanted to hear too. But I just get someone who got me and was like, I really get you. Like what you said about that girl, I would have related to that straight away.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I could go on a little bit of my tangents of one of the, trainings that I do about community leadership.
It's not like you, mate. Jesus.
No, but I really think those moments, like we think we need to go change the world and go do things, those moments are changing the world. Every moment we have in front of us, I mean, I'm going to get preachy now, guys. Every moment we have in front of us, every conversation we have, even this one I'm having with you, I treat it and honor it as the thing that does change the world. My access is not going to Africa and trying to cure the kids from hunger. I mean, if that's a calling for you, go for it. But what I think is that the most important thing we can do is actually have conversations and be with the people in front of us, not fucking think we have to go out somewhere and change the world, or that someone's coming along to change things.
Can I just say, I totally, I think that's one of my biggest frustrations on social media, and no offense to anyone, but like I guess where I work, is like the people you'd probably never see. No one on social media would ever see, really. You know what I mean? And then I work with people that are on social media as well, and it's like I see kind of two worlds, and it's just so different. And when it comes to mental health, I think as a guy, being able to speak up and speak out, I haven't really, like back in a few years ago, I did a lot of speaking and I spoke a lot of different places. And, I used to have full grown men come up to me, shake my hand and cry and say, oh my God, I now see that I need to go and do this. Or I need to go and do that. I need to take responsibility. And I probably never realized how powerful that was until just in the past maybe 6 months and gone, fuck, that's pretty powerful. And it was just an average room of just normal everyday people, but you made an impact. You know what I mean? Now, sometimes I forget. And I think what you're saying is we try to go so big that we're going to change the world. We're going to do all this. Do you know what? You changed the world last night with a girl sitting on the side of the road. You didn't get paid for it. You didn't get paid for it, but do you know what? She is probably a better person for that today. And do you know what? And I guarantee you, at some stage or another, you will cross paths with her. I guarantee it. It's somewhere. You'll cross paths and come across her somewhere. I guarantee it. And the thing is, sometimes, and I'll be honest, in the past, I've done a lot of my stuff just for free because I don't actually give it. Obviously money's good, but I actually just feel good about making a difference to someone. Going, wow, I don't want you to suffer like I did. And that's my biggest driver. And sometimes, making money is great, but sometimes it's just being kind and going, let's just get this person right now. What do they need? Not what we need. What do they need?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And look, I call it alignment with purpose and who we are. So you know who you are, you always act aligned with it, or when you're not, you acknowledge it. It's absolutely. Absolutely. And REECE, honestly, thank you so much for sharing your story on this. So powerful, and just the clarity in which you shared it and the access for people who may be having people that are dealing with this, particularly right now. There's so much going on in people's lives around the COVID-19, people acting a bit concerned because of their, they already may have had something concerned about their mental health. This is just something on top of it, right?
On top of it. Yep.
It's on top of it, and people are not acting how they usually act, and there's financial issues and there's so just to give people space to be heard. Thank you for your story around that. One of the things I just mentioned as well is that labels, when we come back to labels, at times labels can really empower people. And I used to think labels were wrong and we shouldn't have them and no one should be labeled and blah, 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 blah. But actually, I think both can be true. So I think labels can at times completely box us in, disempower us, have us related to very small. And sometimes labels can be super empowering, and they also can allow us to understand ourselves more and actually open things up for us. And I just would be curious to get your thoughts on this. The example I have is a friend of mine who's got autism, and very high functioning. She runs a business, and she actually has created a 7-figure business. And when I spoke to her about labels, I was so anti-labels. I was like, labels, no labels, we show no labels. And she actually opened my mind to that and went, you know what, I'm autistic. And I didn't even realize. And she got a bit annoyed that I said that. I was like, you don't act like someone who's got autism. But what she said to me, I know, right? I didn't even realize how offensive that was to her. And she said that she was feeling all of this kind of emotion she couldn't understand, and she was having all these thoughts she didn't get. And when she finally went to the doctor and he gave her the label of autism, she felt like she could finally understand herself in a way she'd never had before and had more power. So labels can actually empower mental health. Once she did that, she started functioning further. However, both can be true. Labels can in some ways completely constrain us, have us not connect. But in some ways, labels can completely empower us and can have us completely express ourselves in ways we never knew were possible. So there's no one way here. So I'd be interested to see what any thoughts you have on that.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess to my own story too, is that, so from 20 until 28, I moved here over to Australia when I was 27. I was never told I have tics. So it was never a thing. So for 7 or 8 years, I was living with this, like, I don't know, they're just involuntary movements. Oh, there might be this, there might be that. So I came over here, my doctor sent me to a neurologist, and I had all these scans done. And he goes, you might have Huntington's, you might have this, you might have that. And I looked them up and I was like, oh shit, they can all kill you. I was like, Jesus Christ. Anyway, it came back all clear, and he just goes, you just have tics, you have Tourette's. And I was like, oh, okay. So in a way, it was kind of relief just to know. Yeah, I agree. But that still doesn't stop the people. When you've got something so physically announced, it still doesn't stop the labels you get from other people. So I guess in my head, I was like, oh, this is nice to know. I can then go and look at it and see what it is and what I can do to maybe better it. But it still didn't stop the labels you got from other people, because mine was so, you could just see it. I couldn't hide away, right? But I still had those 7 or 8 years of not knowing. So I agree with your friend. Yeah, I guess once I kind of knew, it was kind of nice. And just I could tell people if they asked, I was like, this is what I have. So that was kind of refreshing. It did take a bit of a load off, but then it didn't stop the judgment still of the people around me. But in saying that, a lot of the judgments, I guess I probably created in my own head too, because I was so, what's the word? I guess I was just so, I just sat in it all the time. So I was probably thinking people were judging me, and they weren't. Yeah. Because I was so just used to it. You know what I mean?
I call it being in it.
Yeah. Just
sometimes you can be so in it, so in it. So in the shit, I'll call it.
I guess it's like, if you get, but it's like if you get cancer or something, right? And you kind of get the test results and you go, okay, you've got bowel cancer, right? At least you know, right? It might be a label, but at least you know, and then you get, I guess, a structure of what it is afterwards. The thing I found hardest when I got told I had tics was that there was no right. There was no, it was more, it was, I just said, here's another pill, which made me, like, seriously, you could rub your hand up here and I wouldn't even feel it, literally. My body just went numb. I just had nothing. So I was just, So for me, even though I knew, I still really struggled because of all the symptoms I was having.
Yeah. I think what I'm getting from what you're saying is that labels are actually empowering for individuals. If that helps you understand something more about yourself, what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and a way in which you can move forward, so you can empower yourself. And it'd be interesting to hear what people think about this, right? And also you. But it's like labels are never empowering on other people. It's like everything I think about labels and how it tells me to act. I mean, all of my conditioning in terms of how I am to act about different labels.
Yeah.
It's almost like they're the things that disempower my connection with others and how I might act towards others and how I might see others and if I feel safe or not, even though I have no real understanding if I will or not.
Yeah.
It's like labels are here for me, but they're not for me to put on others. When I try and put them on others, that's when it becomes disconnecting.
Correct. Well, it does, because society is just judgy. When you think about labels, we just judge people, right? Like last night, you literally judged that girl straight away, but then you're like, no, hold it. My heart's telling me to go back. And I guess that's it. If we start connecting more with our heart, that usually tells us whether we're safe or not safe, right? And you made that choice to turn around and go do something and look at the difference that it made. Where your mind told you, oh, no, she's on drugs. She could be doing this. She could be doing this. But when you got there and you actually did something, you made a difference.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean?
I even said to myself, I'll be able to tell. I'll be able to tell whether this is a safe situation or not. So just roll on up, put the window down. And it was almost like I created this opportunity to opt out if it got unsafe.
Yeah.
So responsible, as I call it. But it was fine. The moment she opened her mouth, I knew she was fine. She was absolutely okay.
And do you know,
upset.
And do you know the times that I used to feel the most comfortable is when people would come up to me and go, are you actually okay? I just want to ask, because I just saw you doing a lot of movements. Are you a bit anxious at the moment? And seriously,
wow.
I would just go, woof. Because I was actually quite open to talk about it, but I wouldn't just bring it up. But if people came and asked me about it, I would straight away just feel so much more relaxed. I'd be like, oh shit, the walls are down. Someone's actually just coming up, because it got to a point where I was pretty open about it. I didn't really care, but I did care. But if people came up to me and asked me that question, the walls just dropped. And I was just like, oh, I've got this, blah, blah, blah. And then next minute, you're just having this awesome conversation. And it's like nothing's even happening.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
And so maybe, oh, yeah, go.
Oh, no, someone's asking me a question. I think it's a really good question. She's saying, well, what if she was a drug addict? What is the stigma you have around drug addicts? Nothing at all. But it's more like if I was put in an unsafe, if I could tell that someone potentially was on drugs and acting very different from usual and potentially put me in danger, I don't know that I would have got it out. I wouldn't have. I understand that someone's dealing with stuff. It's not like I judge them particularly for having the drugs, but it's more like I'm not going to put myself in an unsafe situation. So I potentially would have just called the police, right? Because she does need help. Potentially, that's what I would have done. I mean, it's hypothetical now because that's not what happened. But it still wouldn't stop me from stopping. I would still stop, but I may have acted differently because keeping myself safe is really important. I don't think I should put myself in an unsafe situation. I would do that. So thank you for asking that question. It's a good question.
I guess,
Kelly is asked,
But then the drug thing can be such a broad question because drugs aren't just what you think that drugs are. Drugs can be alcohol, cigarettes. Like it's such a broad term. Like we just think drugs and we think all the mainstream bloody hard drugs, right? But drugs can be so many different things. So, and for me, getting told I was on drugs all the time over someone is actually asking me, are you okay? The walls would have gone down straight away. So it's a real, like I said, you decided with our mind, sometimes it can take us here, but sometimes when we connect with our heart will tell us what's actually the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I think that's all that I think I noticed is I didn't assume anything. I just went, are you okay? Yeah. And just in that question, I could tell that she was just someone who was very upset. And the funny thing was she was drinking. She had been drinking. She had actually a water bottle of alcohol and she joked about it with us. I think I might be a bit drunk. Right. So the drinking, it didn't affect her behavior so much. She was connecting. She just wanted la la la. Like, again, it's hypothetical thinking it would be any other way, but I would only act differently if I felt unsafe. If I felt that I was unsafe, I may have been completely different.
And the fact there was two of you, and the fact there was two of you there helped as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and look, I'm not saying. I mean, I don't. Again, Sonia, I absolutely agree. Drug addicts also need love. Not even drug
Oh,
addicts. You talk to
no,
me about
just
any label.
anything,
I
anyone and everyone is needing. Like it's
oh
just
any you could give me any label. I'm one of those people that even I trigger people because I think people who have offended in crime need love. I think Donald Trump needs love.
yep.
I think terrorists need love. I just like I think people need love full stop. I think love is really
Yeah, I think
something you can
it's
give anyone, and it
missing
doesn't
out of a
mean
lot of people's lives. Yeah,
absolutely, and it doesn't mean you don't act differently. Like you need to assess situations based on the merit of the moment. So
yeah. Did you say there's another question before? Did you say there's another question?
yeah, there was Kelly Britton asked one, and I just want to come to it. Have you ever had someone say, oh, what's wrong with you after telling them your label? Like
Yes.
you said, oh, yeah,
So
okay. And she said, how did that feel? How did you feel about that?
my past life before working in mental health, I was actually a bank manager. So
Mm,
obviously, for a long time, and obviously I had to sit with customers all the time, and usually in the afternoons I was the worst. I usually popped a Xanax at
mm,
lunchtime just to try and relax through the afternoon, but you obviously get it through aggressive customers in the bank.
mm.
And yeah, sometimes we'd have a conversation about it, and then yeah, they would still turn on me if they didn't get what they wanted and use my thing.
Yeah.
I actually had someone go to my boss and complain that I was unprofessional because of what was happening for me. Because I did have a
Mm,
customer get quite aggressive one time, and I actually had to kind of take a step back. And even though they knew, because I dealt with them for a little while, and I actually had to wasn't proud of this, but I actually told them to fuck off quite aggressively, which wasn't probably right given my job. But at that moment in time, I was just like, fuck off out of my office, get fucked. So I went and made a complaint. And then when my boss actually came and we had a chat about it, the customer was obviously quite irate, obviously. But the customer actually came back a few days later and they apologized and bought me wine, which probably wasn't a good thing because I didn't need more wine because that was not helping me at the time. Um, but
yeah, I get it.
sometimes in our moments, we like looking back then, we just both reacted how we reacted in the moment. I just thought, what a wanker. He's judging me for how I'm acting. He wasn't. He had so much other stuff going on with his business and he couldn't get the loan and whatever it might have been. But in that moment, I wasn't able to think like that. It's only in the past few
Yeah.
years I actually have that proper rationale of going, shit, what's going on for them? Because right at that time it was all about what's going on for me, right? Because I was living in my bubble of shit. And I guess anyone that took a bit of angst or anger, I just thought they were judging me for me, so I'd react accordingly. Um, Another one was I remember my mum passed away back in 2011, and I came back to work, and this customer came in that I'd been dealing with, and I got a new job at a new site, and he came in and found me, and obviously I was pretty bad anyway because I was not good, but then adding my mum passing away, I was pretty vulnerable. And he came in, and he was the only person in the branch at the time, and I didn't see him. He just blindsided me, and he goes, "Oi, you dickhead! You said you would do this 6 weeks ago. You fucking." I just turned around and went, "You fuck off out of my fucking bank. I'm gonna fucking smash you. Fuck off." I just lost it. I lost it, and went, "Whoa, what the hell?" And he left, and he was that sort of guy that used to write like 6-page complaints every single week about someone. He was some university fucking lecturer. He's fucking bright ass. But anyway, and I was going, "Oh my god, I'm done." So I just got to my boss straight away, and I actually just broke down. I just sat in my office on the phone, fucking crying, going, "I just lost it at a customer.
Mm,
Expect a complaint." And do you know what? That guy never came back. He never made a complaint, never did anything. So that's maybe what the bank were happy to see him go because he was a pain in the ass. But yeah, that was sometimes where people knew how I was, but if I was confronted, that's how I used to react, which wasn't great. And because I was so defensive because I sometimes didn't actually think about what they were actually feeling. It was about what I was feeling. So then I'd project it back.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
So that's a couple of times where I actually just lost it in a real professional arena, but it actually felt real good.
Do you know, I think well, I mean, we're probably coming to a head now, coming to the end. This conversation has been really incredible. But what I think, if I had to wrap it all up, is that you just never know what people are dealing with when they're reacting. You said, you know, that guy that reacted to you, what you found out was he was dealing with other stuff in their lives. And I always love to circle back to this as well, because labels keep us so disconnected from what's really happening. You know, if I look at the stats across every single concern we've got as a society, across anxiety, depression, suicide, divorce, job loss, abuse, domestic violence, you name it. You can kind of go a spectrum of all the stuff we're dealing with as a society, right? The statistics. You see the numbers, right? You see the numbers. 1 in 5, 1 in this, 1 in that. Effectively, what I came from is that in our own circle of 1,000, because we all have about 1,000 people around us right now.
Yeah.
And that 1,000's connected to that 1,000, blah, 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 times the world. In the 1,000 people around us, we have suicide, we have depression, we have anxiety, we have domestic violence, we have abuse, we have divorce, we have all the things.
Yep.
And if we label people, we literally just go, I can't believe that person just gave me a look. That person could have just given you a look because they had a thought about what they were dealing with, because their son is potentially contemplating suicide, because boys have a higher rate of suicide, particularly the ones under 30.
Yep.
That person could have given you a look because they just had someone commit suicide in their family. Like, if you really take away and strip away the labels, you find out that everyone around you is dealing with stuff. All dealing with stuff. Even if we think we're not, we are. It's not far away from us. And I think it's a really great way to wrap up. You have the opportunity. Labels are there to empower the individual. So it empowered you at some point. And I've heard people that have dealt with stuff, but really labels disconnect us. So we should try to kind of ditch them when we're talking to people, and the level of compassion and generosity we can give people, particularly at this time, because on top of that, we've got all this coronavirus crap. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, well, it's true. It's true. I think here's a real simple thing. So I'm sure they won't mind me sharing, but back in January, a friend of mine reached out and said, "Hey, look, my brother's struggling." So I met him and the dad for a meeting for 3 hours, and we sat down and chatted, and I shared my story so they can get, because sometimes sharing is good because it opens up other people, because they go, okay, right, this guy gets it. And it got to the point where the son just goes, "Dad, for the past few years, you talk to me like I'm in past tense." And it was like, that was just a bomb drop. The dad was like, fuck, I have been doing that. And then from that day, the relationship just changed, because the dad was aware of what he was doing. Because sometimes we don't, if we don't have the space, if we don't have the space that someone creates for us to actually get that reality, to then go and do something about it, that makes it really hard, because you still live in that judgment. Because he was feeling really judged, so judged. But his dad, and I said to him, "Your dad is coming from a place of love." And he goes, "Yeah, I get that now." And I said, "Do you know your dad? Do you know your dad's proud of you?" And he goes, "Yeah." But I said, "That was his way of doing it, mate, because that's his conditioning. And you're taking it on because that's your conditioning." And mate, these people have just gone, they're just living a different life now. From a 3-hour conversation. And that was, I don't know, like you did last night. I didn't feel like I did anything, but I just, because I could hold that space for them, that was enough.
Yeah, because you could listen to both of them, because there was no judgment, because there was no taking sides, no comparison, no competitive competition. You know, it's an incredible gift to give people. And it's not easy. This is not about, I think Chantel has actually said it, no judgment of others and also ourselves. No, this isn't an opportunity for you to judge yourself. It's, you got to have compassion. We're all human. We're all
Yep.
imperfect. We all stuff things up. I stuff things up on the daily. No matter how
Holy
much
shit!
work I do, I still stuff up.
I had a breakdown over all this virus stuff a few days ago. Like, we're all human. I'm not sitting here going, I've got everything right, because I don't. But I'm very in tune, a lot more in tune than I used to be, to go, I'm okay. I have good people I can talk to and call now. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that, or they don't see they have that, and that's where sometimes the downfall is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I haven't seen my kids during coronavirus because of quarantine and social isolation. It's been fucked.
Yeah.
And I've really gotten upset about that. I've like gone into the backyard and just laid on the grass crying. I get it. It's not, I just don't resist it now. It's like being part of being human. I don't have to be strong. I've just got great people around me. Things are being dealt with all the time. So, I mean, I think we could go again. Thank you so much, REECE, for this conversation. Mate,
we could
amazing.
We could do an all-nighter.
We could do our own show. We could do our own show.
We could create like the pajama party of whatever.
I know. This is, how long has this been going for? This is,
I don't know. We could call it
yeah, it's 106. Not too bad.
Yeah. All night long. All night.
Yeah, we could. You know, what the take that you have on this, and just how you've come from getting to a point of going through being diagnosed with a mental illness, really just having one panic attack, watching that kind of go down, wanting to end your life, and then taking full responsibility and coming out of it. I mean, there's nothing more of a gift than demonstrating to people, as you put, you realize your gifts and what you can give away to people and the inspiration that you can bring. No matter what there is, there's hope, as you said to me. And having the courage and attitude and to take responsibility for life is incredible. So if you wanted to share a link, if anyone wants to get in touch with REECE or wants to reach out to him, if you do have a link, drop it in here. But it's REECE Anderson. You'll get his name in here as well.
Yeah, just add me on Facebook. Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah.
Send you a message. Add him on Facebook.
Happy to take any questions or anything. Just happy to help. So.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Especially if it's young people, I do seem to have a gift to connect to young people really well. So if you got any teenagers and stuff that you might be not getting a grip on, just reach out and I'm happy to have a conversation.
Awesome. You know, we have a young people division in here on purpose.
Well, I didn't know until you to our little date freaking thing the other night, but yep. I know now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Okay. I'll put you in touch with Emily. We were gonna have an event in May, but that's been cancelled, but we'll do that soon.
Sounds awesome.
Thank you so much, REECE.
Thanks for having me.
Love everything that you stand for. Oh, absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing everything you did with the world. It makes such a difference. I know that this has a ripple effect. So thank you all for tuning in and being a part of the Raw Explore with REECE Anderson, awesome human. Take care. Thanks for your beautiful comments, all your contribution, and have a great evening. Thanks, REECE.
Peace out. Cheers.
See you later. Peace out. See you. Bye. Bye.